Hello, how are you guys? Keeping well, I hope. We're in lockdown mode at the moment, so I'm sitting D-Day instead of walking D-Day. I started guiding in 1982, just after arriving in France. At the time, there wasn't much call for guides. It was history professors who would give visits to groups, but the demand was starting to grow. Some veterans were retiring, had the time to come back, and their families wanted to see where their fathers had fought. The big ceremony in 1984 was at Utah Beach, and I was involved in that. I was accompanying a group of 101st veterans. We were invited to a banquet lunch by the mayor of Carentan. I was sat opposite a councillor who'd been 12 years old at the time of D-Day. He was running to avoid a bombing raid on Carentan, trying to get to shelter. He lost his shoe. After the bombing raid was over, he went back to find his shoe. It was under a foot of rubble, so he'd had a lucky escape. In the afternoon was the big ceremony at Utah Beach. There were 13 heads of state there: Reagan, Thatcher, Mitterrand, the Queen, Trudeau Senior, and other allies. Because there was no question of inviting Germans or the Russians then. But today there's 19 heads of state at the big ceremony. That day, Reagan went to Pointe du Hoc to make the famous speech written by Peggy Noonan about the boys of Pointe du Hoc.
We're here to mark that day in history when the Allied armies joined in battle to reclaim this continent to liberty. The Allies had been told that some of the mightiest of these guns were here, and they would be trained on the beaches to stop the Allied advance. The Rangers looked up and saw the enemy soldiers, the edge of the cliffs, shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades. They climbed, shot back, and held their footing. Soon, one by one, the Rangers pulled themselves over the top, and in seizing the firm land at the top of these cliffs, they began to seize back the continent of Europe.
Now this mug here is from the NROF, the Norwegian Reserve Officers Federation. In 2004, I had a group, about 15 of them, on the 6th and the 7th of June. Now the big ceremony was at Arromanches, but we went to Omaha Beach and there was a small ceremony going on there. Now 2 of these officers were veterans of D-Day. One of them had escaped from Norway and joined up with the American Army and went into Omaha Beach. That was the first time he'd been back. He had his picture taken with a reenactor. I don't know if he realised it wasn't a real soldier. There are 5 Norwegians buried in the American Cemetery from the 99th Infantry Battalion. The other veteran was on a merchant ship in the fleet on D-Day. Now the only ship sunk by the German Navy on D-Day was the Norwegian destroyer, the Svenne. Now 3 torpedo boats came out from the Havre, and they went through what they thought was a fog bank. It was actually a smoke screen laid down by the Royal Navy. And when they got through it, they saw over 1,000 ships out there in the channel. And they fired off 12 torpedoes. Only one hit a ship, and that was the Svenne, which went down rapidly. Now the other veteran was on a merchant ship, and he actually saw the Svenne going down. On the 7th, there was a ceremony at Hermanville on Sword Beach to inaugurate this statue about the Svenne. So we were there, as was the King of Norway. So it was a very moving day for this veteran. Now this is a box of M&Ms. It's empty now because I've eaten them all. It was given to me by somebody who worked in the White House under Obama. Now Obama loved M&Ms, and so he had lots of these. And this has been signed by Obama. Well, the original one was. Now this was given to me by somebody who worked in the Defence Threat Reduction Agency. I had a group of veterans from the 28th Division. They landed in Normandy in July and were involved in Operation Cobra. That was after taking Saint-Lô. They took Percy and we went there. They were surprised they didn't recognise the town. Of course, after 60 years, it's changed a lot. After that, they were stationed in the forest near Saint-Sever-Calvados for a few days. They told me that their officers wouldn't wear their insignias because it made them targets for snipers. After that, they took Sordeval and then they moved north towards the Seine. Now, their commanding officer was General Cota. I can hear you shouting, "No, General Cota commanded the 29th." But he did up until General Wharton of the 28th was killed just after taking his command. The 28th Division were the ones who paraded down Champs-Élysées after Paris was liberated. Now, they didn't actually take any part in the combats for Paris, but the men who had done that were a bit shoddy, and the 28th Division were nice and smart if they could parade down the Champs-Élysées. In 2008, I gave a tour to the Calgary Pipe Band. They were in Normandy to take part in the ceremonies around the 6th of June. Now, we were looking at this tank at Courcelles, the DD tank, and it was one of the tanks that sunk. It was taken out to sea in 1982 and put there near the promenade as a memorial to the Canadian units. Now, one of the ladies in the group, she said, "Oh, I know one of the crew who's still alive. I can tell him I've seen his tank." So even though these tanks went down, most of the crews managed to get out. In fact, most of these DD tanks got into the beaches, except on Omaha Beach. Now, this was given to me by Jim McCompson, who's been twice already, and should be coming this year if the flights ever get back working again. He dealt with the Flights of Honour, and they look after taking veterans to ceremonies and to cemeteries. This plaque was given to me by the Irish Defence Force, or the Ola Naren. Hope I'm saying it properly. They were here for 5 days, so we visited all the zone. They also wanted to visit Beryle in the British airborne zone. And we'd never go down there, so that was quite a challenge. Beryle was just a mile from Angoville, where the commandos were based, but it took heavy fighting to get it. Angoville was where Lord Lovat was wounded by friendly fire. Of course, Lord Lovat led the commandos from Sword Beach to Pegasus Bridge on D-Day. Now, seeing this bottle of whiskey, you're probably thinking, "Oh, you can't even talk for a few minutes without taking a drink." Well, this was actually given to me by the Irish Defence Force as well, so Irish whiskey. And that was in 2015. And you see, it's not empty yet, so the rumours are false. Now, the carry-on at the cemetery was paid for by the AMVET Association, and I had a group of them to visit just after they'd installed the carry-on. Now, at the time, the headland of Pointe du Hoc was out of bounds because the bunker is falling down the cliffs before they repaired the cliffs, but they had permission to go and lay a floral tribute there. Now, Robert Murphy was one of the pathfinders for the 82nd 505th Regiment. He died in 2008, and in 2009, the Ancient Honourable Artillery Company of Massachusetts, of which he was a member, inaugurated this plaque in the Rue Robert Murphy. There were 3 guides guiding the 140 members that came. I was one of them. So we visited all the sites of D-Day. On the last day, there was a ceremony in the church, and then this ceremony to inaugurate the plaque. Now, his son was there, as was the American consul from Paris. One of the members was a ranger who'd been at Pointe du Hoc on D-Day. Now, we went to Pointe du Hoc on the tour, and when we were there, I was telling the group what happened there, and he was stood next to me while I was talking. And when I finished, I said, "Is it right what I said?" He said, "Oh, it's so long ago, I don't remember." But he was a great star that day. People heard there was a ranger, so everybody wanted their photo with him. I'm sure he's never had his photo taken so many times in one day. Now, it's always amazing how small the world is. Just the next spring, I was just leaving St Mary-Glees with 2 visitors, and we got to talking about rangers. And one of them said, "Oh no, ranger, Frank." I said, "Was it Frank Simon?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, I met him just last year." Now the lockdown is being relaxed, so I'll be able to walk D-Day again soon. But we can go up to 100 kilometres from the house, 66 miles. So I can't go into the American airborne sector at the moment. But I'm planning on Michael Wittman. That'll keep me within the radius. Now, Michael Wittman was the commander of a Tiger tank. He knocked out a whole column of British vehicles and tanks, but he didn't last the Battle of Normandy. He was killed on the 8th of August in the Operation Totalise. So if you're not subscribed already, subscribe, tap the subscribe button and the bell to be informed of new videos, and I'll see you soon.